Before everyone calls me heartless, please hear me out. Yes, I joked that my ex was top tier and my husband was mid. Yes, I said it during an argument. Yes, I said it with that stupid sarcastic laugh. But I didn't think he'd take it literally. I didn't think he'd go silent. I didn't think he'd start packing my things himself. And I definitely didn't think he'd say, "Mid doesn't stay," right before he pushed my suitcase into the hallway. I'm staring at him from the doorway right now, suitcase half open, clothes spilling out onto the floor. He stands completely emotionless, a calmness more terrifying than anger, more final than screaming, more absolute than anything I've ever seen from him. And I know in this moment that I've crossed a line I can never uncross, said something I can never unsay, broken something I can never repair. Before we continue, like, subscribe, and hit hype to boost this episode. Drop your city or country below in the comments. I love knowing where everyone's watching from. Let me start from the beginning, because I need you to understand how we got here. How one stupid comment during one stupid argument destroyed everything. How internet slang became the weapon that killed my marriage. How calling someone mid became grounds for divorce. We were arguing. Nothing major, nothing earth-shattering, just the usual married couple stuff. Who does more chores? Who puts in more effort? Who cares more about maintaining the relationship? The kind of argument we'd had 100 times before. The kind that usually ended with apologies and make-up sex and everything going back to normal. Except this time it didn't. This time I said something I can't take back. He was frustrated, saying I always compare him to other people, to other husbands, to standards he can't meet. And he was right. I do that. I do compare. Not consciously, not maliciously, but I do it. "Why do you always compare me?" he asked. And instead of being honest, instead of acknowledging that he had a point, instead of having a real conversation about it, I rolled my eyes. Actually rolled my eyes at him. Like his feelings were stupid. Like his concerns were invalid. Like he was being dramatic. And then I said it. The sentence that ended everything. I smirked. Actually smirked at my husband while he was trying to express genuine hurt. And I said, "Relax, you're mid. My ex was top tier. But you try your best." I remember the exact moment the words left my mouth. Remember thinking I was being funny. Thinking I was using humor to deflect from a serious conversation. Thinking that calling him mid was somehow less harsh than other insults. Thinking the internet slang made it lighter, softer, less real. But the way his face changed, the way everything in him just stopped, the way he looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time and hating what he saw, that's when I knew. He didn't yell, didn't argue back, didn't defend himself, didn't even look hurt in the way I expected. He just froze. Completely froze. His jaw tightened. His eyes went cold. And then he stood up. No words. No explanation. No asking me to clarify or take it back. Just stood up and walked to the bedroom. And I followed him because I thought maybe we'd continue the argument. Maybe he'd yell at me for what I said. Maybe we'd fight it out and then make up. I didn't realize he was done fighting. He went straight to the closet, pulled out my suitcase, the big one, the one I use for long trips, and he laid it on the bed, opened it, and started packing. My clothes, my shoes, my things, folded perfectly, organized carefully, like he was preparing for a trip I didn't know I was taking, and I just stood there, confused, panicked, not understanding what was happening. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice small, scared. He didn't look at me, just kept folding, kept packing. "Stop, what are you doing?" Still nothing, just the sound of drawers opening, items being placed, zippers being pulled. "Can you please talk to me?" And finally he spoke, one sentence, calm, controlled, devastating. Adjusting the tears. And I felt my stomach drop, felt the full weight of what I'd said hit me, felt the realization that he'd taken my joke literally, that my casual insult had landed with full force, that I'd categorized him, ranked him, told him he was lesser than someone else, and he was responding the only way that made sense to him, by removing the mid from his life. I didn't mean it, I said desperately. It was a joke. You know how I talk. You know I use that internet language. Mid doesn't actually mean anything. It's just slang. It's not serious. But he kept packing, kept moving, kept dismantling my presence in his bedroom, in his home, in his life. Please stop. We can talk about this. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. He walked to the dresser, opened the top drawer, and pulled out a piece of paper. Old, folded. Something I'd forgotten existed, and my blood ran cold because I knew what it was. Knew exactly what he'd found. Knew that my stupid joke from tonight had just been confirmed by my stupid joke from years ago. He unfolded it carefully, and he read it out loud. Ranking my exes and current boyfriend. My voice from years ago. Written in my handwriting. A joke list I'd made when I was tipsy and stupid and thought it was funny. Number 1, Marcus, top tier, unforgettable, set the standard. Number 2, James, high tier, good while it lasted. Number 3, he paused, looked at me, and continued. Number 8, current boyfriend, mid, reliable but not impressive, stable but not exciting, safe but not thrilling. I wanted to die, actually wanted to disappear completely, because that list was from when we were dating, from before we were married, from a time when I was young and stupid and thought ranking people was funny, from when I didn't realize that words mattered, that jokes had weight, that what you say about someone reveals how you really feel. And he'd found it, had been carrying it probably, had known for who knows how long that I considered him mid, had been living with that knowledge while I smiled at him and told him I loved him and pretended everything was fine. That was years ago, I said weakly. That was before we were serious, before I knew you fully, before I understood what mattered. I was immature. I was stupid. That's not how I feel now. He folded the paper carefully, placed it on top of my suitcase, like a label, like a tag that told the world exactly what I was and who I'd hurt. Mid, he said, just the word, nothing else. And somehow that was worse than any speech he could have made. He zipped the suitcase, grabbed the handle, and started pulling it toward the door. And I panicked, really panicked, because this was real. This was actually happening. He was actually kicking me out over one comment, over one old list, over being called mid. You can't be serious, I said. You can't end our marriage over this. Over a joke, over some stupid internet slang, over a list I made when I was drunk years ago. He stopped at the door, looked at me, really looked at me, and said, top tier gets chosen, mid gets replaced, and mid doesn't stay. Then he opened the door, pushed the suitcase into the hallway, not hard, not violently, just firmly, decisively, and the suitcase rolled a few feet and stopped, right there in the hallway where anyone could see it, where neighbors would pass it, where the world would know I'd been kicked out. Please, I begged, please don't do this. I love you. You're not mid. You're amazing. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I was just being stupid. I say things I don't mean when I'm angry. You know that. You know how I am. I know exactly how you are, he said. That's the problem. I know you compare me. I know you rank me. I know you think I'm lesser than. I've known for years. And I'm done pretending it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, I said desperately. Your opinion of me? It's the only thing that matters. And you just told me I'm mid. Told me I'm not impressive. Told me I'm not thrilling. Told me my best isn't good enough because it doesn't measure up to someone else. How do you think that feels? To know that the person you married thinks you're mediocre? And I didn't have an answer. Didn't know what to say. Because he was right. I had said that. Had thought that. Had written it down years ago and never taken it back. had made him feel lesser than for our entire relationship without even realizing it, without even acknowledging it, without even trying to fix it. A door opened down the hall. Our neighbor, middle-aged woman who always smiled at us in the elevator. She took one look at my suitcase in the hallway, then at me standing in the doorway, then at my husband's cold expression, and she understood immediately. Didn't need explanation, didn't need context. Just saw a woman being kicked out and a suitcase as evidence. "Everything okay?" she asked carefully. "Fine," my husband said. "Just removing something mid from my life." And the neighbor's eyes went wide, because she'd heard. The walls are thin, the argument was loud. My stupid comment about top tier and mid had probably echoed through multiple apartments, and now everyone would know. Everyone would hear the story. Everyone would know I'd called my husband mid, and he'd kicked me out for it. The neighbor disappeared back into her apartment, probably to call someone, probably to spread the gossip, probably to tell everyone in the building what she'd just witnessed. And I felt my humiliation expand, felt it spread beyond just us, beyond just this moment, into the public sphere, into shared stories, into neighborhood gossip. I was about to become the woman who called her husband mid and lost everything. My phone rang. His sister. He must have told her, must have texted her before he even started packing, must have prepared his support system before beginning my removal. I didn't answer, just let it go to voicemail. And I heard her message, loud, angry, unforgiving. "Mid? Really? You called my brother Emid? Then go find your top tier. See if he wants you. See if anyone wants someone who ranks people like their products." And she was right. That's what I'd done. I'd ranked him, graded him, assessed him against others, treated him like he was a product with specifications and ratings, treated our relationship like it was something to be measured and compared and judged, instead of just loving him, just appreciating him, just accepting him for who he was without needing him to compete with ghosts of my past. "Can I just come inside?" I asked. "Can we talk about this inside?" "No," he said. "You can collect your suitcase and leave. You can go back to your top tier. You can go find someone impressive and thrilling. You can go build a life with someone who meets your standards. But you can't stay here. Mid doesn't stay." And there it was again. That phrase, "mid doesn't stay." Like a mantra, like a decision he'd made, like a rule he was enforcing. And I realized this wasn't impulsive. This wasn't rage. This was calculated, planned, something he'd probably thought about for years. Every time I made a comparison, every time I mentioned an ex, every time I implied he wasn't quite enough, he'd been preparing for this moment, building up to it, waiting for the confirmation that I really did see him as lesser than, and I'd given him that confirmation, willingly, stupidly, fatally. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked. Practical questions now, logistical questions. Because begging wasn't working, crying wasn't working, nothing was working. "Call your top-tier ex," he said coldly. "Call Marcus, the unforgettable one, the one who set the standard. See if he'll take you back. See if he's still so impressive after all these years. See if he's been waiting for you to realize you made a mistake marrying Mid." And the cruelty of it, the coldness, the way he threw my own words back at me, it was devastating. More devastating than yelling. More devastating than hitting. More devastating than anything physical could have been. Because he was using my words, my rankings, my judgments. He was taking everything I'd said about him and weaponizing it, turning it into the reason he couldn't love me anymore. "I don't want Marcus," I said. "I don't want anyone else. I want you. I married you. I chose you." That list was from before. That comment was stupid. None of it reflects how I actually feel. "It reflects exactly how you feel," he said. "You just didn't mean to say it out loud. You didn't mean for me to know." You wanted to keep me while privately thinking I wasn't good enough, while secretly wishing I was more like someone else, while rating me in your mind every single day. That's not true, I said. But even as I said it, I wondered if it was true, if I'd been doing that, if I'd been comparing him constantly, if every time he did something I thought about how an ex would have done it differently, better, more impressively, if I had been ranking him without realizing it, grading him on a scale where he was never quite enough, where he was always mid, always reliable but not impressive, always stable but not exciting. Go, he said, firmer now, more insistent. Take your suitcase, leave, figure out your life somewhere else, but don't come back, because mid doesn't stay, and I'm not going to keep being mid in your eyes. I'd rather be alone than be your consolation prize. And those words, consolation prize. That's what he thought he was. That's how I'd made him feel, like he wasn't my first choice, like he was who I settled for when I couldn't have better, like he was the person I ended up with because top tier wasn't available. And maybe that was true at the beginning. Maybe I did settle in a way. Maybe I did choose him because he was safe, reliable, stable. All those mid-qualities that I'm now realizing are actually good qualities, actually the things that make a marriage work, actually more important than impressive and thrilling and unforgettable. But it's too late for that realization. Too late to explain that I'd learned, that I'd grown, that I now understood that mid meant good, that mid meant partner material, that mid meant someone who stays and works and fights for the relationship instead of being exciting and dramatic and ultimately unsustainable. Too late to tell him that I'd take mid over top tier any day if I could just have a second chance. Please, I said one more time, please give me a chance to make this right, to show you I don't feel that way, to prove that you're not mid to me, that you're everything I want, everything I need, everything I chose. You had years to show me that, he said, years to make me feel valued instead of compared, years to choose me fully instead of keeping me on some ranking list in your mind. And you didn't. You kept the list. You kept the comparisons. You kept making me feel like I was never quite enough. He stepped back, creating distance, creating space, creating the final separation between us. If he's top tier, you belong with him, not here, not with someone mid. Go build your top tier life with your top tier person, and maybe he'll be everything I couldn't be. Maybe he'll meet your standards. Maybe he'll be impressive enough and thrilling enough and unforgettable enough. But I'm done trying to compete with a memory. I'm done being rated, I'm done being mid. And he closed the door. Not slammed, just closed, firmly, definitively. And I heard the lock click, that sound that meant it was really over, that I was really out, that mid really didn't stay. And I was standing in the hallway with my suitcase and my ruined life and my stupid comments echoing in my head. I tried the door handle. Locked. Of course locked. I knocked. No answer. I texted. Blocked. I called. Declined. Every avenue of communication shut down immediately. Every path back to him blocked. Every possibility of reconciliation denied. He'd made his decision, made it clearly, made it final. And I was out here, with nowhere to go, no one to call, no top-tier ex who wanted me back, no impressive life waiting for me. Just me and a suitcase and the knowledge that I'd destroyed my own life with my own words. I sat down on the floor, right there in the hallway, suitcase beside me, clothes still spilling out because he'd packed so quickly, and I whispered to myself what I'd been thinking since this started. It was just a joke. I didn't think he'd actually make me leave. But he did make me leave, because it wasn't just a joke. It was years of accumulated comparisons, years of him feeling less than, years of me not valuing what I had, years of me treating him like he was mid when he was actually everything I needed. And now he was gone, and I was here, and mid doesn't stay. And neither do I. Another neighbor walked by, younger guy. I'd seen him before but never talked to him. He slowed down when he saw me, saw my suitcase, saw my tears. "You okay?" he asked, and I wanted to say yes, wanted to maintain some dignity, but I couldn't pretend, couldn't hold it together. "I called my husband mid," I said, "and he kicked me out." The neighbor's eyes widened. "Damn," he said, "that's rough." "Is it though?" I asked. "Is it rough, or is it fair? I ranked him, made him feel lesser than, compared him to an ex who I said was better. Did I not deserve this?" The neighbor shifted uncomfortably. "I mean, mid is pretty insulting, especially to a spouse, especially if you meant it." "But I didn't mean it," I said. "Not really, not fully. I was just being stupid, using internet slang without thinking about what it actually meant to him." "Did you, though?" the neighbor asked. "Not mean it, because people say what they really think when they're angry, when they're not filtering. So, if you called him mid during an argument, you probably actually think he's mid. You just didn't mean to say it out loud." And he walked away, leaving me with that thought, that horrible, accurate thought, that I probably did mean it, that I probably did think he was mid, that my joke was just my real feelings disguised as humor, that I'd told the truth, and now I was paying for it. I opened my phone, scrolled through contacts, looking for someone who would take me in, someone who would let me stay, someone who would help me through this, and I realized I had no one. All our friends were couple friends. His family obviously wouldn't help me. My family lived states away. My single friends from before the marriage had drifted away. I had no one. I was completely alone. I thought about calling Marcus, my top-tier ex, the one who was supposedly so unforgettable, the one who set the standard, and I looked him up on social media, married, 3 kids, living in another state, completely moved on, completely unavailable, completely irrelevant to my current life. And I realized how stupid I'd been, comparing my real husband to a memory, to a version of someone that probably never existed, to an idealized past that I'd invented and then used to punish my present. I called a hotel, got a room for the night, dragged my suitcase down to the lobby, waited for an Uber, and I thought about everything I'd lost, my husband, my home, my marriage, my future, all because I couldn't keep my mouth shut, couldn't stop comparing, couldn't just appreciate what I had without measuring it against what I'd had before. The Uber arrived. Driver looked at my suitcase and tear-stained face and didn't ask questions. Just drove. Just let me sit in silence. Just got me to the hotel where I could hide and process and try to figure out how to survive this. I checked in, went to my room, collapsed on the bed, and I let myself really feel it. The full weight of what I'd done, the full consequence of my words, the full realization that I'd destroyed something good because I couldn't recognize its value. My phone buzzed, a text from his sister. "You don't get to come back. You don't get to apologize. You don't get to fix this. You called him mid and made him feel worthless. That's unforgivable. Stay gone." And she was right. It was unforgivable. I'd done something unforgivable, not the joke itself, but the years of comparisons leading up to it, the ranking list, the casual dismissiveness, the way I'd treated him like he was never quite enough. That was the unforgivable part. The joke was just the final confirmation of what I'd been making him feel all along. I thought about our wedding, the vows I'd made, to love and cherish, for better or worse, in sickness and health. And I'd broken those vows, not by cheating, not by lying, but by ranking, by comparing, by making him feel less than, by treating our marriage like it was something to be graded instead of something to be nurtured. I'd broken us with my attitude, with my perspective, with my inability to just be grateful for what I had. Days passed. I stayed in that hotel room, called in sick to work, ignored messages, ignored calls, just existed in this limbo between my old life and whatever came next. And I tried to figure out what I would do, where I would go, how I would rebuild. But every path forward seemed blocked. Every option seemed impossible. Every future seemed empty without him. I finally called my mom, told her everything. The argument, the comment, the list, the suitcase, all of it, and she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Honey, you hurt him, really hurt him, and I don't know if that's something you can come back from. Some words cut too deep." "But I didn't mean it," I said. "I was just being stupid." "You meant it enough to say it," she said. "You meant it enough to write it down years ago. You meant it enough that he felt it. And now you have to live with that." "So that's it?" I asked. "My marriage is over because I called him mid." "Your marriage is over because you never made him feel like top tier," she said gently. "Because you kept comparing instead of appreciating. Because you held on to past relationships instead of fully embracing your present one." The word mid was just the final straw. But the damage was done long before that. And she was right. The damage had been done, over years, over countless comparisons, over every time I mentioned an ex, over every time I implied he wasn't quite enough, over every time I failed to make him feel valued and chosen and important. I'd been damaging us the whole time, and I hadn't even realized it, hadn't seen it, hadn't stopped it before it was too late. "What do I do now?" I asked. "You apologize," she said. "Really apologize. Not for the joke, but for everything. For the years of comparisons, for the ranking, for making him feel mid when he deserved to feel top tier. And then you accept whatever he decides, whether that's forgiving you or not, whether that's taking you back or not. You accept it, because you earned this consequence. So I wrote a letter, not a text, not an email, a real letter, handwritten, pages and pages, everything I should have said, everything I should have felt, everything I should have shown him over our years together. I'm sorry I ranked you. I'm sorry I compared you. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't enough. You were always enough. You were always more than enough. I was just too stupid to see it, too caught up in memories of the past to appreciate the reality of the present, too immature to understand that mid meant good, that reliable meant valuable, that stable meant partner material. I'm sorry I said you weren't impressive. You impressed me every single day by staying, by working, by loving me even when I didn't deserve it. I'm sorry I said you weren't thrilling. You thrilled me in ways that matter, in consistency, in loyalty, in choosing me every day. I'm sorry I said you weren't unforgettable. You're the most unforgettable person I've ever known. Because you're real, because you're present, because you're mine, or you were mine. And I threw that away. I threw you away, because I couldn't see your value until it was gone. I mailed the letter, didn't know if he'd read it, didn't know if it would matter, didn't know if words could fix what words had broken. But I had to try, had to make one last attempt to show him I understood, to show him I'd learned, to show him I'd grown, even if it was too late. Days passed. No response. I found an apartment, started moving forward, started accepting that mid really doesn't stay, that I'd lost him permanently, that my marriage was over, and I tried to figure out who I was without him, without us, without the future we'd planned. I never heard back, never got a response to the letter, never got closure, just had to accept that mid doesn't stay applied to both of us now. He didn't stay in the relationship, and I didn't get to stay in his life, and that was that, the consequence, the price, the result of calling someone mid when they deserved to be called everything. And late at night, in my new apartment, I still whisper to myself what I whispered that night in the hallway. It was just a joke. I didn't think he'd actually make me leave. But he did make me leave, because it wasn't just a joke. It was the truth disguised as humor, and the truth set him free. Free from me, free from my comparisons, free from feeling mid. And I'm here, living with the consequence, living with the loss, living with the knowledge that I destroyed something good because I couldn't recognize its value until it was gone. Mid doesn't stay, and neither did I. Weeks turn into months. I try to build a routine in my new apartment. Wake up, go to work, come home, sleep, repeat. But everything feels hollow. Everything feels wrong. Every day I wake up and remember that I called my husband mid and lost everything. Every night I go to sleep wondering if he ever thinks about me, if he ever regrets kicking me out, if any part of him misses what we had. I run into one of our couple friends at the grocery store. Sarah. Someone I thought was my friend too, not just his. She sees me and her face changes. Uncomfortable, guilty, like she's been caught. "Hey," I say weakly. "Hey," she replies, not meeting my eyes. "How are you?" "I'm surviving. You?" "Good. We're good." Awkward silence. Then she says it. "We heard what happened. About the mid-comment." My stomach drops. "It was just a stupid joke," I say automatically. He knows that about me. Knows I say stupid things. Sarah shifts her weight. "Look, I don't want to pile on, but he's my friend too. And he showed us the list, the ranking thing from years ago. And it's not just about one comment. It's about a pattern, about making him feel like he was never your first choice. He wasn't at first, I admit, but he became my first choice. He became everything. I just never told him that properly." "Maybe you should have told him that instead of calling him mid," she says. Not cruel, just honest, just pointing out the obvious that I keep missing. "Can you tell him?" I ask desperately. "Can you tell him I didn't mean it? That I've grown, that I realize now how wrong I was?" Sarah shakes her head. "He doesn't want to hear about you, doesn't want updates, doesn't want messages through friends. He's moved on. And honestly, I think that's healthy. I think he needed to leave, for his own sanity." "But we were married," I say. "We took vows. And you broke them," she says gently. "Maybe not legally, maybe not in an obvious way, but you broke them by not honoring him, by not making him feel valued, by keeping him on a ranking list in your mind." She walks away, leaves me standing there by the frozen vegetables feeling worse than before, feeling like even people I thought were on my side have chosen him, have decided I'm the villain, have concluded I deserve this, and maybe they're right. Maybe I am the villain. Maybe I do deserve this. Maybe destroying your husband's self-worth by calling him mid and comparing him to exes for years is actually grounds for losing everything. I start seeing a therapist, mandatory if I want to ever have a healthy relationship again. And she asked me why I ranked people, why I kept comparing, why I couldn't just be present in my marriage without measuring it against the past. "I don't know," I say. "It's just how my brain works. I analyze, I compare, I evaluate." "But people aren't products," she says. "They're not meant to be rated and ranked. That's dehumanizing. That's treating your partner like they're a purchase you're reviewing instead of a person you're building a life with." "I didn't see it that way," I say. "I just thought I was being analytical, being honest with myself about what I liked and didn't like." "But did you ever focus on what you did like about him?" she asks. "Or were you always focused on what you liked better about someone else?" And I sit with that question, really sit with it, and I realize I don't have good examples. Can't remember times when I just appreciated him without the comparison, when I just loved him without the measurement, when I just existed with him without the ranking. "That's the work you need to do," she says, "learning to be present, learning to appreciate without comparing, learning that good enough is actually good, that reliable is valuable. That mid isn't an insult, it's a compliment. It means solid, dependable, the kind of person who stays." "But he didn't stay," I say bitterly. "He left, mid left." "Because you made him feel like mid was bad," she says. "Because you treated being reliable and stable like it was lesser than being exciting and impressive. And he internalized that, believed that about himself, and decided he'd rather be alone than be your second choice. She's right. Of course she's right. Everyone's right except me. I'm the only one who still thinks I didn't do anything that bad. Who still thinks calling someone mid is just a joke. Who still thinks ranking your partner against exes is normal. But it's not normal. It's toxic. It's damaging. It's exactly the kind of behavior that destroys marriages. And I did it. Consistently. For years. And then acted shocked when the consequence came. I try online dating. Briefly. Because my therapist says I need to practice valuing people. Practice seeing them as individuals instead of data points on a ranking list. Practice being present without comparing. So I go on dates. Coffee with a lawyer, dinner with a teacher, drinks with an engineer, and every single one of them asks eventually, "So, why did your marriage end?" And I have to decide how to answer. Do I lie? Do I minimize? Do I tell the truth? And I've tried all three. Lying creates problems later. Minimizing feels dishonest. And telling the truth ends things immediately. I called my husband mid and he kicked me out isn't exactly attractive dating profile material. I ranked my partner and he found out doesn't inspire confidence. I compared my spouse to my ex for years, makes men run fast. One guy actually laughs when I tell him, "Mid? That's hilarious. What did he expect? That you'd worship him? Men are so fragile." And I realize he's missing the point, completely missing it. It's not about being fragile, I say. It's about being constantly told you're not good enough, about being compared to people from your partner's past, about feeling like you're a consolation prize instead of a choice. He shrugs. Still seems like an overreaction. And I end the date early. Because he doesn't get it. And if he doesn't get it, he'll just repeat my mistakes. Make someone else feel mid, destroy someone else's self-worth, and I can't be part of that cycle. I write another letter, longer this time, more honest. I'm starting to understand why you left. Why calling you mid wasn't just a joke. Why the ranking list wasn't just a fun thing I made years ago. It was a pattern. It was a mindset. It was me treating you like you were less than because you weren't as dramatic or exciting or impressive as someone from my past. And that was cruel. That was unfair. That was wrong. You were impressive in ways that matter. You showed up every day. You worked on us. You stayed even when I didn't deserve it. You were exciting in your consistency, in your loyalty, in your choice to be with me, even when I wasn't being with you fully. You were dramatic in the right ways, in the ways that build relationships instead of destroying them, in the ways that last instead of burning out. I'm sorry I couldn't see that. I'm sorry I needed to lose you to understand your value. I'm sorry I'm still that person who measures and ranks and compares. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to change. I'm trying to become someone who could deserve you, even though I know I don't get another chance. I don't mail this one, just keep it in my journal. Because he doesn't want to hear from me. Doesn't want my apologies or my growth or my newfound understanding. He just wants to be free of me. Free of feeling mid. Free of being ranked. And I have to respect that. Have to let him go completely. Have to accept that some damage is permanent. I see him once, months later, at a restaurant. He's with someone, a woman I don't recognize. Pretty, laughing at something he said. And he looks happy, lighter, more relaxed than he ever looked with me. And I'm standing at the host stand waiting to be seated, and I see them, and I want to disappear. Want to leave, want to avoid the confrontation or acknowledgement or whatever might happen. But he sees me. Our eyes meet, and I see it, the flash of pain. Then something else. Not anger, not hate, something worse. Pity. He pities me, pities the woman who destroyed her own marriage, pities the person who couldn't value what she had, pities me for standing here alone while he's moved on. And that pity hurts more than anything else could. Because it means he's over it, over me, over us, so over it that he can feel sorry for me instead of angry at me. I leave. Tell the host I changed my mind. Walk out of the restaurant. Sit in my car in the parking lot and cry. Because seeing him happy with someone else, seeing him not carrying the weight I put on him, seeing him free from my comparisons and rankings and judgments, it hurts. It hurts so much. Not because I want him back necessarily, but because I want to be the one who made him happy. Want to be the one who made him feel valued. Want to be the one who never called him mid. My therapist asks me what I learned from seeing him. That he's better off without me, I say. That mid was actually top tier, and I was too stupid to see it. That I destroyed something good, and now he's found something better. Is it better? She asks. Or is it just different, just new, just free from your particular brand of damage? It's better because she probably doesn't rank him, I say. Probably doesn't compare him to exes. Probably makes him feel like he's enough, like he's chosen, like he's top tier. And you couldn't do that, she asks. I thought I did, I say. I thought loving him was enough. I thought being with him was enough. I thought showing up every day was enough. But it wasn't, because I was also keeping that list in my head, also comparing him constantly, also making him feel like he was never quite good enough. And he deserved better than that. Deserved someone who saw his value without measurement. So you've learned, she says. You understand now what you did wrong. Yeah, I say. I learned. After it was too late. After I'd already destroyed everything. After he'd already moved on. I learned. And now I get to carry that knowledge forever. Get to know exactly what I did wrong and exactly why I deserve to lose him. That's my punishment. Understanding perfectly why I'm alone. She's quiet for a moment. Then, understanding is the first step to not repeating the pattern, to not hurting the next person, to not making the same mistake twice. There won't be a next person, I say, because who wants someone who admits they called their husband mid? Who wants someone who ranked their partner? Who wants someone with my history? Someone who's done similar work, she says. Someone who's also made mistakes and learned from them. Someone who understands that people are flawed and growth is possible and past behavior doesn't have to define future relationships. But I don't believe her. Don't believe there's someone out there who would want me knowing what I've done. Don't believe I deserve another chance after what I did with the first one. Don't believe I'm capable of being a good partner when I couldn't do it before. So I just sit there, in her office, paying money to be told I'm fixable when I know I'm not. A year passes, then another, and I'm still alone, still in my apartment, still going to therapy, still working on becoming someone who doesn't rank people, and slowly, very slowly, I start to change, start to catch myself before comparing, start to appreciate things without measuring them against other things, start to exist without constantly evaluating and assessing and judging. But it's too late for him, too late for us, too late to show him I've changed, because he's moved on. Probably married that woman from the restaurant, probably happy, probably making her feel top tier every single day, probably never thinking about me except maybe as a cautionary tale he tells his new wife. My ex used to rank me and call me mid, so I left, and then I found you, and you make me feel like I'm everything. And she probably does make him feel that way. Probably doesn't have my particular brand of damage. Probably treats him like he deserves to be treated. And me? I'm still here, still alone, still learning, still carrying the weight of what I said and what I lost and what I'll never get back. Still whispering to myself on bad nights what I whispered that first night in the hallway. It was just a joke. I didn't think he'd actually make me leave. But it wasn't just a joke. It was years of accumulated hurt, years of him feeling less than, years of me not recognizing what I had, years of treating mid like it was an insult when it was actually the highest compliment, because mid means stable, reliable, consistent, present. All the things that make a marriage work. All the things I threw away because I was chasing a memory of something more exciting, more impressive, more top tier.